Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's Zoo to You, which is brought to you by MIFA on behalf of the U Fund College Investing Plan. So big thanks to MIFA, and also big thanks to our beautiful guest star here. This is Valkyrie, our barn owl. She's a really cool bird, and it's really exciting to have her here for a lot of reasons. One of the big ones is that her birthday is actually coming up in a couple weeks. She will be turning 12 on February 18th. Really excited to have her here for a little bit of an early birthday celebration. So we can all say happy birthday to Valkyrie, our barn owl. Now Valkyrie and barn owls in general are really cool birds. They have a lot of really neat adaptations that help them survive. One of them that you probably have noticed straight away, and you might think of it whenever you think of owls, are those huge eyes she's got in the front of her head. Owls are known for being nocturnal species, which means they hunt at night. They like the cover of darkness to keep them hidden from their prey, but those eyes let the barn owls and other species of owls see in almost pitch black conditions. So even when it's really dark outside and we can't see a thing, Valkyrie and other barn owls can see really well. Now, because she's a nocturnal species, we often get questions about what she's doing awake during the day. And as you might be able to see, she's kind of fallen asleep a little bit there, but she's also well adjusted to being on our schedule because we often feed her during the day. So she's pretty flexible. Just like some humans might work jobs that have them up at night, Valkyrie kind of works her job here at the zoo that has her up all day. So we're feeding her during the day, and she's very used to that schedule. In addition to using her eyes to hunt, she also uses her big claws. Maybe we can pan down and get a peek at those. Those are called talons, and they're the reason I'm wearing this big leather glove. Keeps my hand nice and safe. But those talons are a great multi-purpose tool for when these guys are hunting. They can use them kind of like we use a fork to hold on to their food really tight. These barn owls, typically like to eat things like mice and rats, smaller rodents. But they'll also eat things like snakes and lizards, frogs, if they can catch them. They are not too picky. They are definitely carnivores. They like to eat meat. And that's why those talons on their feet are so important. So they can fly down, grab onto their food, and make a tasty little meal out of it. In addition to their eyes and their sharp talons, their feathers are also a really cool adaptation. They give great camouflage to these birds. I don't know about you, but when I look at Valkyrie, the first thing I think about is tree bark. She has great camouflage on her feathers, and she blends in really well, making it easier for her to stay hidden from her prey. But she also has another adaptation that we can't quite see, but those feathers have microscopic fringes on the ends of them, which makes it so that when Valkyrie flaps her wings, when she's flying, it's essentially silent. So you can't hear her coming up on you. Same thing goes for the mice and rats that she likes to eat. So she is a ninja. She is perfectly silent in the air, and she likes to hunt at dark. So Valkyrie here is a master of sneak attacks, and that's why she is such a good hunter. Barn owls can eat up to 300 mice, sometimes even more, in a year. So they are really great pest control. So if you guys have seen these around your house, we do have them here in Massachusetts, and they're actually found on every continent in the world except Antarctica. But if you have seen them around your house, these guys are definitely good to have around because they keep those rat and mice populations in check, and those animals can be kind of pesky at times. Now, a lot of people, when they think of owls, they think of birds that can turn their heads all the way around. And that's kind of a common misconception. They can turn their heads really far around, and it's pretty impressive. But they can only do about 3/4 of the way. I think Valkyrie's a little too sleepy to show us right now, but when she turns her body, she can actually have her head facing completely backwards, which is really impressive and kind of scary sometimes if you sneak up on her. But they can turn their heads really far, and the reason for that is pretty cool. Their eyes that I talked about a little while ago, those big eyes that help them see in the dark, they don't have any real room for muscles around them. So maybe we can get a closer peek. She's definitely interested in the camera a little bit. But there's no muscles around those eyes in the socket, so they can't move their eyes independent from their head like we can. So if you keep your head still, you can still look to the left and to the right by kind of moving your eyes around. She can't do that, so she needs to make up for that by moving her entire head. It sounds kind of exhausting, but owls make do with that. And it's really impressive because it doesn't look like they have a big neck, but under all these feathers, kind of right here, they have a really long neck. It's just kind of masked by that fluffy feather coat. So if you ever look at the skeleton of an owl, it really looks nothing like this because all those feathers kind of make their body shape deceiving. Also, I don't know if we've had any questions in the chat so far, but if you have any questions about Valkyrie or owls, feel free to ask them. I can try to answer them as they come in.
We've had lots of people wishing Valkyrie a happy birthday.
Awesome.
Lots of people complimenting her feathers. And we do have a question from Allison wondering, what does Valkyrie eat here at the zoo?
That is a great question. So Allison was wondering what Valkyrie eats at the zoo, in case you guys couldn't hear that. As I said before, Valkyrie is a carnivore, which means she likes to eat meat. And here at the zoo, she gets that in a couple different ways. So one of them is this ground up meat. It's kind of like the ground beef you could find in a grocery store, but it's a little more kind of raw. It's got kind of animal chunks in it. It's a little yucky, but those chunks are actually really good for their digestion. It helps their beak stay filed down when they're eating kind of rougher meals. That helps keep their beak filed down because their beak is kind of like our fingernails and it continues to grow. And all those little animal bits, the little pieces of bone, they give her calcium and other nutrients that she needs to stay healthy. So she gets ground up meat, and she also gets whole mice. So we get mice in, we get them frozen, and then we thaw them out. And Valkyrie loves mice. They are probably her favorite food. She gets very excited when she sees them. She kind of wiggles her head back and forth, and she loves it when she gets a day where she has a nice tasty mouse to eat. Occasionally, we'll also get other prey items, or prey items like quail. I don't think Valkyrie's as fond as them, but as I said before, they'll eat pretty much any animal that is smaller than them and small enough for them to grab onto, so they are not picky. But the big three that we give her here are quail, mice, and ground up meat.
Brian, where do barn owls get their name from?
So that's another great question. Someone asked where barn owls get their name from, and they actually do get them from barns because these animals, as I mentioned a couple times now, they love to eat mice. And mice are often found in high numbers around kind of human settlements, especially things like farms and barns. So people noticed that these animals were often found around barns. They called them barn owls. And if you think about it, it makes sense. They're often looking for those mice and rats that are often found eating the grain that might be stored in the barns or living in the hay. So these guys, they're found in barns, and they're really helpful to have around barns because of that reason. They are a natural pest control. So if you ever see a barn owl, you can thank it as it flies by or snoozes happily in a tree.
Since we were talking about mice, we had somebody wondering if the zoo buys the mice.
That is a fantastic question. We do buy them. We get them in bulk. They are all pre-frozen. That's kind of the extent of my knowledge on the mice. I work with the back end of feeding them to the animals. But yeah, we get mice in bulk here at the zoo. A lot of our animals eat them. As I mentioned, the birds of prey do. If you've been in this building before, we have a few different species of snakes in this wall of animals behind me, and they eat mice. And then some of our bigger predators like the cougar, the jaguar, the snow leopards, they'll occasionally get mice treats too. So they're a big fan or a big favorite of a lot of our animals.
If someone were to come and visit Stone Zoo, where could they find Valkyrie on exhibit?
So that's a great question. Here at Stone Zoo, Valkyrie lives right next to the Animal Discovery Center. She's got her enclosure right there. And that's where she is most of the time. However, recently we've been having a little bit of bad weather. And while these animals can be found in Massachusetts, we do like to keep Valkyrie safe. And we will move her inside if it's exceptionally snowy or exceptionally cold. So on a really cold and snowy day like today, you might not be able to see Valkyrie because we do move her into her kind of summer home or her winter home where it's nice and toasty and warm and keeps her safe from the harsher elements that we do get sometimes this time of year. I think she appreciates being able to go inside and doesn't have to deal with all this ice and snow. Awesome. Well, I think we're just about out of time with Valkyrie here. But thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Valkyrie, for being such a perfect little owl. And thank you to MIFA for supporting today's Zoo to You on behalf of the U Fund College Investing Plan. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great day. Stay safe out there.